Very nice.
Coffee?
So Mr. Francesco,
Yes.
and Mr. Silvio. Yeah, so thank you for your kind interview with National Critics' Choice. And I'm Robin Stienberg from the editor-in-chief. Many of my readers like to understand how how YouTube met, and as well as what is it like to take over the maestro from the first generation?
What a question. Well, Silvio and I met in 2004 when I reached the group. Silvio was already in Musici from 2000. So I know him by reputation, of course, as a well-renowned viola player, but we didn't met personally before. And about the first and second generation, well, at the first moment, because the Musici are an established group from 1952, and they are well-renowned all over the world, they have big responsibility, but at the same time, a great honor, because to take over all the, how can I say, the responsibility, because many great musicians play with the Musici in all those 60 years, from Felix Saio, Roberto Michelucci, Pina Carmirelli, Mariana Sirgu, and for example, if you go to Japan, they still remember the fourth season of the Musici of Felix Saio, that I speak something about 40 years, 45, 50 years ago. Or in Europe, they still remember Pina Carmirelli, was our first violin from the 70s to the middle of the 80s. And of course, all the records the Musici made from Vivaldi, Corelli, Tartini, all the masterpieces of Italian Baroque music. So our goal as the second generation is to keep strong roots in our tradition, because without roots you can stay on the field. But at the same time, time passes and people changes, public taste evolved. So we have at the same time to have new leaves, because otherwise the trees should die. And that's not an easy task, of course, because you have to identify which one are the really roots. For example, for us as Italian people, Italians always speaks loud, moving hands and shouting and crying and laughing. We are very, very expressive. So that's one point to focus on, to stay with the typical Italian expressivity. That means melodies, nice sound. I am the harpsichord player, but all my colleagues that play strings are beautiful instruments from the 17th and 18th century Italian tradition of instruments maker. That's very, very important. And so the sound, the melody, expressivity. At the same time, it was not very easy to identify what can we do as something modern. What means modern way to play? It's not easy to decide sitting on a table. No, you have to try and catch public reaction and sometimes it goes right, sometimes it goes wrong. But modern for us is to find in this music that was written 3 centuries ago, which are the meaning that are still today can signify something for today's audience. So what are the feelings inside that music? What are the meaning of that music that still today can say something to the public? And we try to identify this movement inside the music. So I think today the world is a very active world, people traveling a lot from Asia to US to Europe, every day in activity. And I think in this music, especially in Italian Baroque music, you can feel that energy inside, the rhythm, the movement, the speed of that music. And we are now trying to traveling this way. I think for the moment public has very good reaction. For example, in Germany, that in Europe is maybe the traditional public for classic music. Germany is the center of cultural music for Europe. We had recently had a tour and public was really enthusiastic, and also critics. We play in Berlin Philharmonic Concert Hall, and we have a very nice critic, and public was so enthusiastic, and that was a great satisfaction for us, because we understand at the moment that maybe the way was the right way.
So, Mr. Silvio, please tell us, what is music to you? Music. What is music?
Music. Music is in my life. So it's a necessity, a need.
So music is a need.
A need. Yes.
Is it? So is it a necessity as well?
Yes, necessity. I can't imagine my life without music.
That's interesting. So what will happen if, let's say, your entire team right now? Who's the oldest in the group?
The oldest, about age, is Claudio Buccarella. He's 70 years old. But if we speak about the staying permanence in the group, I think both Massimo Paris and Vito Paternoster, they entered in the group in 1975 or 76. So they play in Musici more than 35 years now. Yeah, almost 40 years.
And is your group as a whole, are you all still producing more content? Are you all planning to produce more content in the future?
More?
Or more content, a new album?
Oh, yes. Recently we recorded our 60th anniversary CD dedicated to all Vivaldi's music, all Vivaldi's concerts. And the reason is very simple for this choice, because Vivaldi was the first author the Musici played, and at the time you have to focus maybe a little bit on the period when Musici was born in 1952, because of course the World War II was ended a few years that time, Baroque music was not very popular. Especially Vivaldi's was almost unknown composer, and there was a group in Italy named Società Corelli that usually plays this Vivaldi's concert music. And when Musici was founded, they start from this music because having chosen to play without conductor, and also you have seen we have only strings, instrument, and one harpsichord. Vivaldi's music was perfectly tailored to this kind of group. So they start playing Vivaldi, and particularly also the history of Four Seasons is very interesting because at that time the few person that plays Four Seasons plays only one of the concerts. For example, the winter or summer or spring. The Musici was among the first group to play as a cycle of the Four Seasons. And I found one critics of that time that focused on that point. Musici was able to play all the Four Seasons at once. So this was the starting point of the Musici success. Of course, this music was in that moment a sort of how can I say renaissance, because when you start playing the spring, this beautiful theme, you immediately feel like refreshing air, no? And you feel good, and that was at that time people need to feel better, to feel good, to inflate good and fresh air. So that was the starting point, Vivaldi's music. And to celebrate our anniversary, 6th anniversary, we decided nothing would be better than have a CD with Vivaldi's music. So we choose a group of concertos for strings, 11 concertos and symphonies, and we made this CD. And in September, I think we come out to the market as a super audio CD. And then we'll have
this year
we'll have also a very limited gold-plated CD in 496 pieces.
LP, vinyl.
Also vinyl LP.
So also, some people ask, some of our readers ask, is that will your revolution, as your team progresses in time, they notice that you don't have any women players in your group. Would that ever happen in the near future?
Why not? Why not? As you can see from the old images of you can see at least 3 women.
So 4 women.
4 women at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's
Each other.
yeah. My mother also plays group. Now there's no woman, but it's no.
Okay.
Yes, just it happens. No rules against women, of course.
You can't exclude.
They also ask, is there any possibility that because China, India are one of the emerging growing markets in the world today, and Asia, of course, and music among those countries also has taken on a different emotion, and one of the questions they asked is that would your team will ever attempt classical Chinese orchestra? Would that be a possibility? Because you came from China, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So what's your perception of music over in China, and do you think that you will collaborate with the Chinese orchestra in the future?
Also, it's an interesting question. We had a great success in China now. We have 11 concerts. Not only in the big city like, of course, all Chinese cities are
Big.
but I mean the biggest, the most famous like Shanghai or Beijing. We have concerts in Xiamen, Xi'an, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Suzhou. I don't remember which one. But for example, in Beijing and Shanghai, you have the perception that public is already used listening Western music, so they listening, sitting very polite and yes, clapping at the right moment at the end of the pieces. So very warm public, but already educated. In the other city, people is more, how can I say, noisy and maybe enthusiastic, ingenuous, so they not know the pieces and they clap when they feel to express their satisfaction. But it was very interesting because anyway the people was really participating to what we do on the stage. Different sensation for us, but very come posso dire, di soddisfazione.
Fine.
Yeah, satisfying for us because anyway you feel the public. You succeed to catch the public and walk with the
like pionieri.
Like pioneer. We feel like a pioneer, you know.
Yes, of course. Yes. But would you ever collaborate with the Chinese orchestra in the future?
Not for the moment.
Yeah.
We have a project in mind, but we didn't succeed to realize for this tour, to collaborate with a traditional Chinese orchestra to do an opera, Chinese opera of Baroque period. So I Musici and a Chinese orchestra playing Chinese music from the time of the Musici's music, but Chinese traditional music. Not easy to realize.
The idea is to have a new composition. We don't know by which composer to link these two operas,
Of course.
the Italian, Chinese, inside a new piece. Maybe that's an idea.
You know, also other thing. For example, East Asia is a great market for us. I don't like the word market, but just to explain, Japan, we have 23 tours in Japan until now, more than 10 times in Korea, and now the third time in China. And I try to explain to myself the reason of the success of our group, because you know, culture is so different from Italy, Japan, Korea, China, and also the traditional music of this country are very different. So I asked to myself why our music is so popular, and I think that the four seasons, inside the four seasons, there's a sort of kind of magic inside, because it's a music that you can listen to a different level of perception. You can just sit on your seat, trying to have some relax and having some fun listening these beautiful melodies. Then you can trying to understand the games of the nature inside this music, birds, dogs, and the ice breaking in winter, or the fox hunting. So just the second level, understand what the music is speaking of, is talking of. And then again, if you go deeper and deeper, this cycle of the nature, everybody knows how seasons come one after the other, winter, spring. So it's something that everybody knows and can identify in itself. And at the end, I think that this music speaking of life, the cycle of life, from the beginning, the spring, to the end, the winter.
So it's all emotional.
I think that maybe this is not a conscious, yes, it's something that's subliminal, but people can recognize in each part of the world to this music, because at the end this music speaks of ourselves as a human being. It's really a little miracle, because without speaking and without saying anything Japanese or Korean except thank you and bye bye, we can speak to people in all the world. And we have to, in this sense, we are very grateful to Vivaldi for this, because he do a real masterpiece that after 300 years is still alive and day by day become more and more alive.
Well, thank you very much for this interview, and we look forward for many more concerts in Asia and around the world. And also, my readers will be looking forward to your new CD and your latest private collection in September, if I'm correct. Could they get it on Amazon as well? Or
Amazon, I think on iTunes.
Oh, okay,
iTunes, I'm sure it will be there.
We can send you a copy.
Thank you.